Stay ready is the mentality birthed through the trials and triumphs of life as an NFL long snapper. Join me in conversations with teammates, mentors, friends, and family who helped me realize that stay ready is so much more. A deeply rooted principle of life in all things faith, family, and football. All right, guys, here we are again on the Stay Ready podcast, and I got my boy Cody Hollister here today. Really stoked to have you on, man. When I was planning this podcast, it's been a while now, but when I knew that this year was the year that I was going to do the podcast, and I made my roster of guys, just local.
I made the roster. Wow.
You were on the top three. You might have been one or two, because I was like, you know what? Cody is one of those teammates that I'll never forget, and I'll always just cherish that moment in friendship with. And we spent that 2020 season with the Titans, on the practice squad a little bit, and got to know you off the field because now you're living here in Nashville full time. But man, you were one of the very first people I thought of, I gotta get Cody and hopefully his brother Jacob on the podcast, because you and him have an incredible just testimony and story, and how you made it to the NFL, and how you're still here in the NFL, and just the bond that you have as brothers, as twin brothers, right?
Yeah.
And one of the very few twins in the league. How many?
It's crazy the amount of twins that there's a little amount, but I've been around a lot of them.
Okay.
So us, the McCourty brothers,
yeah.
And then on our team currently there's AJ and his twin, who's currently in the NFL. I forgot which team. And then we've got three sets of twins.
AJ who now?
Gosh, what's his last name? The guy, we just got him in, the safety that just came in,
okay.
AJ.
So he's got a twin.
Yeah, he's got a twin in the league. I think his brother's a year behind him coming in. But
so less than five?
Gotta be. I mean,
yeah.
I think I can think of three that are in the league.
Okay.
AJ and his brother, the McCourtys,
yeah,
and then us. And we were with the McCourtys our first 2 years.
In New England,
so the second year they were both there.
Okay.
But our first 2 years, we were with our second year with the McCourtys, but first 2 years we were together, so it was pretty cool.
Awesome, man. So you're in here, you're in Nashville now full time, loving it, right?
Yeah.
Great place.
Yeah, it's been awesome. I bought my house here 3 years ago is when I got signed for the first time, but
yeah.
We'll probably get into, it's been a roller coaster of people think you get signed and you're just signed, but you're no, I'm grinding.
Yeah,
so.
we'll get into that here in a moment about just kind of the no quit mentality that you and your brother carry along, kind of with me with the stay ready mindset, and just kind of what that really means. But let's go back a little ways. You're from Bend, Oregon originally, so West Coast guy like myself. Mm-hmm. We have kind of a lot of similarities in the sense of how football worked out for us through high school, junior college, just kind of going through that recruiting process and moving across the country to places you never thought you'd go. So let's go back a little ways. Let's go back to Bend, Oregon.
Okay.
Let's talk about a little bit of your childhood, you and your brother, how football came about. We'll just kind of go from there, man.
Yeah, so me and my brother, first of all, my dad and mom were athletes. They split when I was 4. My mom did a lot of ballet dancing and stuff like that. My dad was a baseball player. And so through high school, and he played at Portland State. But then when we were growing up, it was my parents' mission to just be a good father and a good mother. And my dad, how he saw he could do that is just by giving us all these opportunities and then letting us choose. So he'd put all the sports in front of us. We played hockey at one point,
yeah.
Football, soccer, basketball, baseball, track. We tried everything. And then me and Jacob naturally gravitated towards football, baseball, and basketball. So we played all three of those through high school. Then all my sisters played volleyball except for my youngest, which was the singer and musician. So he'd lay out all the sports in front of us. We gravitated towards especially football. We're those kids in first grade saying, I want to be in the NFL.
Yeah.
When you're going around and
yeah.
saying what you want to do when you're older. And you kind of as you grow older, you kind of have that reserved, should I even say it?
Yeah.
No one's going to believe me.
Oh, yeah.
But me and my brother were always NFL.
Yeah.
And so my dad said to us, me and my brother, he's I'm not going to force you to do it, but if you want to do it, I'm going to help you in every way I can.
Yeah.
So that was baseball, including my mom taking us to things, sacrificing, money invested. We'd be in the highs and lows of money. We'd have nothing. We'd go to the thrift store to get a glove, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then my dad, he took what he knew, which was baseball, and he applied it. And if he didn't know something, he'd, get someone else to teach, but he'd coach all of our teams. He did real estate.
Yeah.
Like you're in real estate.
Yeah.
So he'd do real estate to have a freedom of time, because you always said time is the most valuable thing you have. So we wouldn't even think our dad was working, because he'd like scope out this time for coaching, me and my brother's team, and then he'd go work while we're at school. And so it's like we didn't know any different, while other parents' dads are working all the time. And so we had a dad and a mom that invested a lot of time into us, and not in a forceful way. My dad just presented everything, and then once we said yes and our yes was on the table, it was like, all right, now I'm going to push you.
Yeah.
And so we're doing like 300 push-ups, 300 sit-ups twice a day at like 9 years old.
Yeah.
Like literally might have been 8. And not forceful though. He's like, hey, do you want to do this? Like, this is what I know you can do well. You're not going to lift weights yet. And so we do a lot of body weight stuff. And so me and my brother, having a twin, you're like, oh, if he's going to do it, I'm going to do it. And so watching TV at night or something, we're just on the feet under the couch doing sit-ups and push-ups, 300. And so we started getting like 6-packs at like 8 and 9 years old. People thought we were getting like abused.
Yeah.
But it was our choice.
Yeah.
Our dad literally just, that's why I loved our first conversation. Like I remember having it when we were eating and talking about your story, and I'm like, oh my gosh, man. Because it just developed this perseverance inside of us and this work ethic that instilled in us that it was no option for us. It wasn't like, man, do I quit and do I not? It was just like, oh no, there's no quit. There's no way you're going to give up. And that was from being a child. Just like there's no option but to persevere. And then the Lord is going to open and close doors that he chooses. But like, I'm not going to give up.
Yeah. So that no quit mentality for people listening that are, new to, just knowing Cody and his brother, Jacob. So like the no quit mentality obviously was instilled in you guys at a very, very, early age. Where did like the no quit kind of like little stamp, little hashtag, little just brotherly mantra come about? Was that kind of like in college or high school, or does this go back even further?
The mentality came from childhood, but I can't even remember when we first started saying it. I think Jacob probably said it first.
And how do you get? You just say no quit, right? Like
no,
you
just say no quit.
Yeah.
Like we'll just look at each other, especially when we're like dropping each other off at an airport or something.
Yeah.
We just give each other the nod and
or in workouts and when
we like talk
out,
crap to each other.
Yeah.
Like if he's doing like a pull-up series to fail or something,
I'll
say all of the things that people said.
Yeah.
Like I'll say like, oh, he'd be, my brother was a quarterback switching to tight end.
Yeah.
He'll be a good D3 player. Or, guys smirking at us in high school saying we want to play D1 ball, and a coach, like not our head coach, but like I remember this specific guy. I was a sophomore and I said, it was like this coaching meetings, and it's like the goal setting meetings, and you're like, I want to play D1 ball.
Yeah.
And just like I mentioned, you're like kind of hesitant because you're like, I know they're going to laugh, but I said it and I still remember the look on his face.
Yeah.
Because he was like, okay.
Yeah.
That's cute.
I can relate to that because I just went back to my hometown last week. I got inducted to the Tracy Sports Hall of Fame in my hometown, and a huge honor. But growing up, like I wasn't like the premier marquee player. I was never, the all-league guy. I was never, I was a multi, sport athlete, but I was never like excelling at all of them. I was like mediocre at track and field, decent at golf, pretty good at baseball, like really good at football. But I was never like the standout player. I was always just kind of that under the radar, steady guy. And one of the coaches that got inducted the same night I did, just so happened to be, the coach that told me something that I'll never forget. And my dad, who introduced me that night and presented the award, talked about that really pivotal moment in my journey where that coach believed in me so much that when the season was over and we had like the team banquet, he kind of pulled my dad and I aside, and we're just talking about how the season went. I was pretty discouraged, man. Like no scholarship offers, had no like direction of where I was going to go. And you can relate to this. We'll get more into that. But I was undersized. Went to a smaller school. We weren't very good. We were maybe like if we were 500 that year, that was kind of a good year, right? And at the time, back in the early 2000s, recruiting was so different. You had to be like the guy on your team in the newspaper all the time to get, recruited and scouted. Now, guys got YouTube and they can put their highlights up and it's accessible to everybody. But that one coach who played D1 football at University of Colorado, he said, "This is just Friday night lights, man. You're gonna play on the weekends." And him saying that to me was just that little seed that I needed, that little spark just to keep me going.
Dude.
And yeah, I went to junior college and it wasn't a big deal, but I'll never forget that coach for what he did and what he said, because he motivated me. When all the other coaches were like you said with your experience, I want to play D1 ball, I want to go to the NFL, and they're like, yeah, okay, dude. Like,
right.
And when I look back, a lot of my coaches they never made it past high school.
Right.
So for them, they never really got to experience, or maybe they didn't push themselves enough. Maybe they have those regrets where when it comes to coaching their kids, they don't instill that dream in them because they never lived it themselves. So the really good coaches that I had typically were the ones that did make it because they knew what it took to get there, or they can see the talent or potential in those kids.
For sure.
So, man, I could relate to that, man, so much. So in high school, your brother's playing quarterback, you're receiver, I would assume. Yeah. So you've been a receiver pretty much your whole life.
I was running back
Well, you're just fast. So
growing up.
They want the ball in your hands, right?
Growing up until sophomore year, I was a running back / receiver, but because my brother and I would run the wishbone.
Yeah.
My dad taught us and just murdered teams.
Dude.
Growing up, Pop Warner stuff, like, oh my gosh.
We need to find some highlights of that, man.
Yeah, because it was literally just option. My brother would snap it, run, and then they're all gonna swarm to my brother. He options it to me as just
the Hollister brothers,
just over.
Just getting after it.
And then I moved to receiver sophomore year. We were like 5'8".
Yeah.
And then, just grew, and I grew like 6 inches in like a year and a half.
That's
body
awesome,
aching, but my brother started sophomore year on varsity.
Okay.
Someone got hurt, and then I didn't start till junior year.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So senior year, you guys had some success, right? As a little combo, little dual threat.
Yeah.
Quarterback, receiver. You guys win state, right?
Yeah. There was a newspaper release that had some confusion because it said twin killing.
Oh, jeez.
And me and my brother on the front page.
Oh, yeah.
And we looked like really serious. It was supposed to look tough.
Yeah.
We were like, and some people thought we were murdered, bro.
Yeah.
So I'm getting like calls and texts.
Yeah.
And that's a summary that we did we killed that year. It was awesome.
And what year was that?
That was 2011, 12.
Okay. All right.
So 11 season into 12.
Yeah.
He was the quarterback, I was receiver. We broke like every record.
Yeah.
At our high school, we won state.
Yeah.
It was just this like highlight. You're living on this high. Your biggest dream as a high school. I mean, probably one of the greatest moments of my life was literally like winning state with my buddies, because those are truly your brothers. There's no other intention other than just winning and being together. But we thought, probably like you. I mean, I thought scholarships were gonna reel in. I'm like, we won state. Like, God, we did it, and here they come, and nothing.
Yeah.
We got a Minnesota Crookston 70% scholarship offer.
Yeah.
And they pretty much said like, hey, come
as a package deal.
Yeah, package deal. You be the quarterback. You be the receiver. That's you guys can.
Was that D2 ball?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we had a couple walk-on offers, a couple almost offers with like Idaho almost offered. I would have totally went too.
Oh, sure.
I would have been pumped.
Yeah.
Portland State almost offered. That I would have went there too. I said I'd move to safety, whatever you need. And then just you look at the Lord's protection, because man, I would have said yes in an instant.
Yeah.
And so the unanswered prayers of me praying like, God, I want an offer so bad. So we humbly went and walked on to Nevada, Reno.
Yep.
Because my dad was like, guys, I don't think you need to. Settle's not the right word, because you can go and not settle to a D2 or D3 or NAIA school easily. Like it's not settling, but for us, like we just knew, like D1 ball, like that's our aim, and that's what the Lord laid on our heart. And so walked on to Nevada together. After one semester, couldn't afford it. $10,000 in debt.
Yeah.
So we looked up, literally typed in best JUCOs in the nation.
Yeah.
Arizona Western popped up.
Yeah.
So we dished. I think Jacob sent the email, but emailed, the coach there and tried to. It's Coach Minnick is his name,
Okay.
and contacted him and sent him our high school tape, and they gave us scholarships, and we're like, really?
That's cool.
And so we go there, play for a
So
year.
you packed up your car from Nevada, Reno, drove down
So we didn't have a car. We had
Okay.
our stepdad picked us up from Reno. They had just dropped us off, the semester before.
Yeah.
So they're picking us up.
Yeah.
And dude, I'm not gonna lie, I was so happy. I still remember. I took a snapshot in my mind.
Yeah.
I literally can see it of driving away.
Yeah.
And being so excited.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I just know I'm not supposed to be here. I knew that I was supposed to go there.
Yeah.
And now I know I'm not. And so we were driving away, man. Felt so good. And then we pull up to
The JUCO,
middle of nowhere, no sight unseen.
Yeah.
You're just going there.
Yeah.
So my stepdad picks us up, drives us to Arizona Western, Yuma, Arizona. It's like 10 minutes from the border of Mexico.
Okay.
So you're literally driving into like lettuce fields and you're like, dude,
nothing out there.
yeah, it's just desert
Yeah.
and it's just fields and it's like pesticide smelling.
Yeah.
And Yuma is a great place,
Yeah.
but like in the middle of nowhere for football, you're like, dude, what I just walk into.
Yeah.
So we roll up, get dropped off, like, good luck. And again, at Nevada, we had that moment in the beginning where like, we literally, me and my brother looked at each other. And this is maybe where No Quit started, but we looked at each other in the beginning of camp.
Yeah.
And literally just looked at each other like, dude, do we go back? We had this conversation in camp. We don't see any opportunity. We're like, dude, nothing. How do we, it's so difficult. Like, the coach there, he's intense. And so we got there, we looked at each other, like, should we go work for our stepdad? And like, dude, it's okay. Like, should we go back? And we just said, no, we can't. Like, we know we're supposed to be here.
Like, go home, like, back to Bend, Oregon.
Yeah,
and
start working.
Like, hang it up, kind of.
Hang it up.
Talk. Yeah.
Start working.
Yeah.
Start progressing.
Yeah.
Work in the business, grow the business.
Yeah.
Like, that was a conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that the Lord like I said, was instilled in us to just say, like, I wish I could do that. Because if there was any leniency inside of me, the comfortable thing would have been totally to do that.
Yeah.
And so it would have been like gasping for breath. You're underwater and you're like, dude, I just want a breath.
Yeah.
So that breath would have been to just go home.
Yeah.
But we chose to stay underwater. And so we drove to Yuma, Arizona. I'm talking, we get there, same exact conversation. First 2 days, first couple hours, we looked at each other, we're like, dude, should we go back?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Where are we right now? Had a first team meeting. We were like, dude, it was like culture shock. We're like, what is going on? We look at each other, we're like, dude, seriously? Like, we're dead silent. We're like, seriously? Like, how are we going to do this?
Yeah.
And we just stay.
Yeah.
Like, we just don't leave. Stay under that water and we hold on and we start to see the light.
Yeah.
So we just work our butts off and, we're just grinding, unseen.
Yeah. I mean, for those not familiar with junior college, I mean, JUCO's gotten a lot big. In California in particular, where I'm from, JUCO is like almost in every other town. So opportunity there for it's big because there's not a lot of Division II football in California. It's either D1 or you got to go out of state, really. There's some NAIA, some D3, but I mean, the state of California really just got rid of a lot of not just football programs, but sporting programs in general. A lot of the universities that used to exist back in like the 80s and 70s and were really, really like predominant programs, So JUCO was like always an option for me, and for a lot of kids, really. And of course, I didn't want to go because at the time I felt like I was better than that. But when I went to JUCO at Diablo Valley Junior College, it couldn't have been a more perfect fit for me in the stage of life where I'm at. I didn't learn, like, from a technical, fundamental standpoint of football, I was never really taught very much in high school. It was kind of like you just let your raw natural ability, like, get you to, succeed on the field. I could hit hard, I could, know how to block guys, I know how to make tackles. But then when I got to junior college, it was like plays, like you need to know schemes and checkdowns. And, I was playing linebacker at the time, like, dude, I've never had to cover a tight end before. Like, what is, I was like so discouraged. And I came home one night and to my mom, like in tears, I'm like, I can't do this. It was But looking back, man, and in the moment, once I got settled and got comfortable and got acclimated to that culture, because it was a culture shock for me too, because I'm with kids from Oakland. I'm with guys that are
Right.
fresh out of jail. I'm with guys that failed out of high school. I commuted to school every day with my buddy Marcel Robinson. I'll never forget. 40 years old, looked like Terrell Owens. I'm not even kidding. Chiseled to the max. Fresh out of prison. Couldn't have been a nicer guy. And we drove from Brentwood, California to, about 30 minutes to Concord, Pleasant Hill every day. But talk about two complete opposite human beings. He's about nearly 20 years older than I am. He's got, a daughter. He's got a family. Here I am, just 18-year-old kid that doesn't know any better. And it's something I started looking up to,
For sure.
But I played with guys that I never would have had an opportunity to play with because of the opportunity that JUCO presents,
For
But
sure.
for those not familiar with JUCO, if you watch, Last Chance U on Netflix, I mean, it really is like, it's a destination where guys are forced to go because they have no other option. And it could be in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, Iowa, whatever, in your case, Arizona. And it's just an opportunity to play ball for the love of it and potentially get a scholarship out of there. And so you and your brother thrived there.
Yeah.
I would assume, right? You did well.
Yeah.
You played 1 year or 2 years there?
Played 1 year.
Okay.
So we went there, and it wasn't. Some guys go there because they have to go there, for academic reasons.
Yeah.
But for us, it was just to get re-recruited. That's the cool thing. It is such a melting pot of different reasons, like you said. You got the guy. We had a guy that just got out of military. That he was there 27, I think, and he's this grown man playing linebacker, and we're like, dude, where are we right now? Yeah. And then you got guys. We had a bunch of Florida kids, and so culture shock for me too, dude, and something that I naturally wouldn't have been in a situation like that. But the Lord put us there, and it was like the best thing.
Yeah.
Because these guys that at first I saw as like were so different ended up being, honestly, the differences of me and a lot of, like, this specific guy, his name is AJ, and he's a linebacker, went to Florida State. I don't know what happened, but he ended up at JUCO. And some of those guys ended up being the closest to where I'd assume we're so different. And we really are in some degrees, but like they ended up being some of my closest friends there and my boys. Whereas like take me back to Bend, Oregon, and it's like there's just not really that even opportunity to be put in those situations. And so we go there. I had a pretty successful year. Again, just the Lord graced me because I go in there, there's like JUCO, for people who don't really know it, there's some of the most gifted athletes. Like I still think the most gifted athletes I've seen are in JUCO. I'm seeing this dude, Fred, who no one would know his name. I just know his name was Fred. Because he didn't make the team because he was just messing up, with drugs and whatever he was doing. But this dude was the quickest guy I've ever seen in my life. And made this cut, and me and Jacob looked at each other. We're like, this is different. But we're around all these guys. I was like fourth string receiver, and then one guy gets popped for weed, another just attitude issues, another one something else, and suddenly I'm the number one receiver.
And is your brother playing quarterback?
He transitioned he played a spring as quarterback, then he transitioned to tight end before the season. So this is a guy, talk about no quit. He learned tight end.
So
and
he's still playing it to today.
And he's killing it.
Awesome.
And so I had to just start teaching him routes. And again, one of those moments we're looking at each other like, can you really play tight end? Even in my mind, I was like, dude, I just hope it works out. Like, because this needs to work. It's so many situations where like, this has to work out. And by the grace of God, I think he didn't really have some successful JUCO experience. I played pretty well, got a lot of opportunities. So I ended up like 9th in JUCO as a receiver, and but I still only had a few offers. Arkansas came in late. But Jacob, I mean, he was coming out like still learning the position of tight end. Just got bigger, trying to put weight on. And Wyoming had offered both of us, and they held that offer when the coaches got fired. So he went there, and then started from scratch pretty much, and then just like worked his butt off. Put on weight, like obsessed over the position, and just learned it and studied it and just worked. I mean, it just worked.
I mean, in hindsight, JUCO offered him potentially the best opportunity to make that transition, because you go to D1 as a quarterback, and you try to make a transition to any other position, I don't care what it is, that transition is hard for anybody. D-line to O-line, DN from, outside linebacker or whatever the case may be. But maybe JUCO was the best for Jacob at the moment because of the fact that he was allowed that time and allowed that maybe there just wasn't the talent.
For sure.
Maybe there wasn't a 5-star other tight end that would overshadow Jacob and Jacob would never see the field.
Yeah.
If he was at a D1, if you guys were still at Nevada Reno, maybe that transition would never have happened.
Yeah.
And maybe he'd be a 4-string quarterback his entire career, whatever the case may be, and never got to see the field. But because of JUCO, man, that was like that happened to me a little bit too, because I was undersized, slow, middle linebacker. Then I went to DN, and I also long snapped. But long snapping was where the coaches were like, dude, you're pretty legit, man. Like, you need to work on this and go to camps. And because high school, no one really told me that I was legit.
Yeah.
They just thought, I was the only one that could just do it. But at JUCO, they were like, hey, this is a special skill, special gift that you have, man. You really need to work on this. Like, you want to make it to the league, like, this is your ticket. And that's kind of where that seed was planted in my mind, in my heart, was like, all right, long snap is my thing. But just hearing your story and hearing about Jacob, and it's like, I can relate so many levels of JUCO. It's like it presents those opportunities because it is different, and you lose guys, like guys are getting kicked out of school, or financially they just can't, out of state guys, if there's not dorms, we had no dorms at our JUCO, so they had to have like these state grants, and if that doesn't fall through, then they don't have no housing, and there's 3 guys living in a 1-bedroom little studio and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of different circumstances in JUCO that really puts a lot of guys at a disadvantage, and they just end up fizzling out because, it's just a hard reality, So, I mean, we're riding school buses to games. We're not jumping on planes. We're not jumping on, charter buses. We're jumping on like yellow school buses to go. And I look back, and it's like high school is great because those Friday night lights, that some of the best moments of your life, and the friendships and the bond you had. And you don't really remember the wins and losses. You just remember like just going through having fun with your friends. But JUCO is very, very similar because I don't remember the wins and losses. I just remember the bus rides. I remember the fights that happened with other teams after a game in the locker room.
Yeah.
I remember one teammate pulling a gun out of his locker, not to shoot anybody, but he had it on him. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you're literally walking around campus like packing? It's just like you said, the melting pot of people from all over, different backgrounds, different situations. Like, it's a beautiful mess.
For sure.
Is what it was, and I love my time. That's why talking with you, someone who can relate, the JUCO experience is it's so cool, man, because it gives me kind of goosebumps because it was a special 2 years for me.
For sure.
And so you and Jacob, here we are, 1 year JUCO. He goes to Wyoming. You end up late getting offered by Arkansas.
Yeah.
Right? So, I'm kind of touching on a little bit of what I remember of your guys' story when we first met. But this is the first time you and him, like, separate.
Yeah.
Because you guys have been together, obviously, grew up together, high school together, Nevada Arena together, JUCO together, and now, like, you're forced, like, there's a fork in the road. One's going one way, you're going the other. So talk about that, man. Talk about how, as twins, as best friends, like, how hard was it to go a different route than Jacob?
Yeah, so coming out of JUCO, we both had a scholarship to Wyoming. And I had a couple of scholarships like Wyoming, Troy, Weber State, and Arkansas came in late. And it's interesting because my dad, just like your coach, I was in high school, and I think it was sophomore or junior year, and to where I saw there was no potential, there was no, hype or anything. And my dad was like, I don't know, I just see you being on like an SEC team, like Florida or something. Yeah. I still remember him saying that. I'm like, I almost tried to bring my dad to reality because I didn't want to fail. Yeah. But he'd always be like, I just see that. I just see you being a late bloomer, and I see you. And so he spoke that life into me, just like that coach. I had a coach like that too. And so he said that. Well, fast forward, some years later, and I got this Arkansas offer late. I even prayed about it. I'm like, Lord, this would just be unreal. Yeah. Bend, Oregon kid getting an SEC offer. Yeah. And so that next day I got the offer. Brett Bielema offered me. And it was like, an answered prayer that I was so happy about, but then also the reality set in of, wait, now I might not be with my brother.
Yeah.
And my brother, if you don't know us, you know, my twin brothers, he's an hour and a half older than me. And so he's always naturally taken on the older brother role.
Yeah, yeah.
Making friends for us our whole life.
Yeah.
You know, he'd make them and then I'd get like really close to him.
Yeah.
And he just would always be the connector. And so when we split up, it was truly like an identity crisis. And so for me, not for him.
Yeah.
And so he actually pushed me towards Arkansas in a loving way, because he knew I really did want to go to Wyoming out of, just like I said, like that would have been the breath.
Yeah.
Would have been like, oh my gosh, okay,
the comfort zone.
I can just breathe. Because every step of our journey has been like, okay, now I'm comfortable being this uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then God's calling me to a new level of uncomfortability. And it's like, gosh, dang it. Like I just got comfortable and just got stable. And like suddenly you're asking me to go underwater again. And so,
but there was some comfort though, knowing before, like even though you're going somewhere new, uncomfortable, you had big bro next to you.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
And it's interesting because at the times we didn't consider it. You know, we didn't think that this is easier. We just thought like this was hard.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to Arkansas and I'm like, oh my gosh, if I just had my brother, this would be nothing.
Yeah.
I could go anywhere with my brother.
Yeah.
But now it was like these slow pieces of God just like stretching me further and further and strengthening me bit by bit. And so suddenly this big Band-Aid was pulled off to where I didn't have my brother. And out of all the things, that was hardest for me. It literally broke me down. It broke me, like, it sounds petty because I just got a scholarship to Arkansas, like I should be fired up, and which I was, but I go there and I'm just in this true like clinical depression and anxiety. I've never experienced that in my life. I've always been like a deep thinker, but this was like true anxiety and depression, to where I'm going to the football field, putting a smile on my face because I wanted to present myself and be successful. And then I'd go, you know, behind the coaches and I'd go to bed, you know, midday, and I'd just sit there and cry and like be on just lay there. I didn't have any energy. Like when you're that depressed and stuff, like all you want to do is sleep. Yeah. I just would lay there on my bed, put my phone, set it down. I didn't have any headphones, and I would just talk to like my mom, or it sounds terrible, and it was, but I'd literally be like just asking God for the next breath. Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to be here. It sounds interesting because you're in this. Now I look back, I'm like, dude, that is such a good time. Like SEC, Arkansas, like go make friends, go have a blast. Like I would, you know, I'd live it completely differently now. Yeah. But at that season of life and where I was, this identity crisis, like I didn't know who I was. Yeah. And so that's where like the Christianity piece comes in of like, Lord, who am I? Yeah. And so I had nothing left. I wasn't a twin anymore. Yeah. You know, football like was a thing. It wasn't like if I put my identity in that, you know, people were just gonna which, you know, being at SEC you could easily do that. But for me it was like I had nothing left. And I saw no like light. And so the Lord brought me from that place of, you know, we can get into that, but he just had some situations happen to where I found my identity in him. And it sounds cliche, but like I really got to experience what that actually meant. Like no one can take this away. Yeah. And it wasn't easy, but it was a slow progression of like finding myself in the Lord.
That's awesome, man. So again, Jacob's in Wyoming. He's thriving. You're kind of in, we'll just call
was thriving.
Let's just call it your desert season, right? You're in Arkansas going through your this phase, this chapter of life that is just like, it's so different for you, right? It's so like, it's dark moments, it's depression, it's the highs and lows of like what you're experiencing. You got, you know, the dream SEC, you know, opportunity, but yet you're also struggling behind the doors, you know, with depression and just being like stripped away of all the comfort that you once had. But let's talk about like, let's move on a little bit further, because, you know, now you guys thrive. You guys obviously both play really well at your respective schools. We get ready for the draft. We just had the draft last weekend, so let's kind of relative now in this conversation. So let's talk about your draft journey, right? Because again, you and your brother have a really, really cool testimony on how this all shakes out. Two boys from Bend, Oregon, you know, making their dreams come true. So let's talk about the draft. Let's talk about kind of just the prep going into it. I mean, was it always your dream? Was it really a reality like an attainable goal once you got to like your senior year in Arkansas. And let's talk about like draft day and how you and Jacob kind of both experienced two different things, but how it all just kind of came full circle, man.
Yeah, so to preface going into the draft, we were in different situations because Jacob had a lot more successful college career than me. He went there and first year was average. The last 2 years, he had a lot of success at tight end. Was just finding his pace, like everything was flowing. He was killing it. As for me, it was, you know, I'd start out a season and like feel like I'm climbing, and then I'd, you know, get hurt or I'd feel like I failed and I'd be climbing back. So I was just like in this constant circle of like trying to be a starter again, being a starter, and then like falling back, whether that be I had a foot surgery and a toe surgery. Yeah. And so coming out of college for me, I had a very below average, you know, career, and actually found my way on special teams. Okay. You know, that's actually where I found, you know, my spot. Yeah. And I went in thinking I was going to have this big career as a wide receiver at Arkansas. Turns out I was just trying to find any sort of role at that point, because it was like I'd either keep getting hurt, you know, or just couldn't find my role. And so special teams, man, was an effort game in college. So I'm like, all right, I can give you all I got. And so I just thrive on just giving all I got.
And you're on all four phases, like balling out or what?
Yeah, so I mean, it'd be different for every game, but really like seeing me on punt and kickoff was really what I loved, you know, because you can you can open some eyes, you know, in college, because a lot of guys don't want to be on special teams. But man, I was like, I just want to make an impact. Yeah. And so I'd be flying down there, you know. And so that kind of is what I became when it came to like a draft prospect. As an undrafted free agent, it would be like, all right, you can be a special teams guy, we can develop him as a wide receiver. Yeah. So that's where, you know, going into the draft, I had just had toe surgery about 4 months prior. Okay. So I was just coming back. Like, I couldn't do my pro day. Okay. All I could do was bench press. Yeah. So leading up.
What did you do, like 25?
29.
Woo, let's go.
Yep. It's all I could do. So I was like, I better kill it.
All you could do, bro. There's not many receivers out there that can do 29 reps, bro.
Yeah. So, I mean, I set my mind on, like, I need to kill this. Yeah. And so I'd say about 20 was from my physical ability, and the last 9 were, like, just mindset, wanting to kill it. I had a sore sternum for, like, a month.
Yeah.
Because I was slamming that thing. Yeah. But I was jacked up. And so the Patriots, for me, it wasn't a lot of teams were interested in anything. Really, the Patriots naturally just, you know, I got a great agent in Kyle.
Yeah, you introduced me to Kyle Strong and the team, man. So appreciate that, man. Kyle's awesome, man.
Yeah, which is just nuts because he reached out to me because he was the agent for BA, Brandon Allen. And I was sitting here like, you know, the other options I had felt kind of sketchy. Yeah. And then this great agency reaches out, Kyle and MGC Sports, and they say they want me, and I'm like, really? I thought they didn't know that I was in a boot. Like, so my first meeting with Kyle was I was in a boot, getting ready for like pro days coming up and all this stuff. And he didn't bat an eye. Yeah. And so me leading up to it, that was kind of me, was all right, I did the bench press, and then I was going to be able to work out like a week before the actual draft. Okay. So I did this workout for Patriots and some other teams a week before.
On campus or somewhere else?
Yeah, at Arkansas.
Okay.
My brother was there. Yeah. And he had came and trained at Arkansas for his pro day and stuff, so we were training together. But then for actual draft day and those 3 days, I didn't know what it was going to look like. But really for me, it was more stable because I knew that, you know, by that third day, I didn't know what was going to happen, but like I knew that really for me it was going to be the Patriots most likely from the talk, and I didn't have all these teams wanting me. And so the Patriots locked in like about the 6th round. They're like, hey, we want to sign you as an undrafted free agent. Okay. And so bam, I was like celebrating. I'm like, that's perfect. Sweet.
So your draft, how did you guys celebrate or prepare for draft? Did you guys go back home to Bend, or were you and your brother together? Or
we were in Arkansas.
You were in Arkansas. Any family?
No, just me and my brother.
Yeah, just you and your brother in a dorm, or what?
We were renting this apartment. Okay. That MGC like had rented out for us to train and stuff. Okay. So we had that apartment in Arkansas. Okay. At the campus, near the campus. So we were training and living there, and we thought it was a luxury too. We're like, oh my gosh, $1,500 a month. We're like, I can't believe they're paying this. So we were at that apartment training. And so that's actually where we were in that apartment.
Yeah.
Third day comes around. Jacob's wondering if he's going to get drafted because he might be 6th, 7th round.
Okay.
You know how it is. Like some guys are saying they're going to take him, and then they drafted a tight end. He's like, what the heck?
Yeah.
And so 7th round rolls around, doesn't get drafted. And at this point, I knew I was going to go to the Patriots. We'd hugged it out. This is awesome. But never in our mind was it like, oh, we're going to go to the same team.
Yeah.
And that was never our prayer because it was just too. We didn't even think about that. It was just too good. Our prayer was always like be in the NFL.
Yeah.
But the last day was here, the third day, the end of the draft. And my brother has about 5 teams, none of which are the Patriots, but they're all wanting him as an undrafted free agent, making different offers. Guys are FaceTiming him. I'm like sitting there knowing what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
You know, recording him like, okay, is he going to the Jaguars? Is he going to the Texans?
Yeah.
This guy's calling him from Denver. Like, where's this guy going to go? And so he looks at me and he's like, dude, where should I go?
Yeah.
Like, I got it. Cause this is a 10 to 15 minute choice.
Yeah.
For a lifetime. You feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders because you're like, this is where I live. This is where I'm going to go play. This could mess with where I'm going to be in my career. And so within 10 to 15 minutes, you got to make up your mind.
Yeah.
Especially if you have choices. And so for him, he looked at me and he's like, dude, where should I go?
Yeah.
And he was overwhelmed. And so I said, dude, let's just put everything down. People are calling him. Let's just put everything down. Let's just pray about it. And so we literally sat there and prayed and asked God, we're like, Lord, open a door so big that we have to walk through it. Like, open this door for Jacob that he has to walk through it. There's no questions asked. As long as we know it's from you, we'll do it. No questions asked. And so literally I'm talking a minute after, or maybe less, Kyle calls up, our agent calls Jacob, and he's like, hey man, the Patriots just came in with by far the best offer, like 80,000 80,000 guaranteed, 10,000 signing bonus. And so we looked at each other, we're like, and Patriots weren't even on a thought for him, but we looked at each other, we're like, wait, we were kind of frozen. We're like, did that really just happen? And we're like, lock it in.
Let's go.
And so then we're just celebrating and hugging each other and calling our dad. We're on the phone with our dad, like, And so for us, dude, that moment was like, God just opened that, like he literally just answered that prayer. And what's cool is like, it happened in that instant, but there was so much that needed to happen before that. But God is outside of time. And so it happened in that moment, but he previously did so much for that to be perfectly led into this. And so our prayer was answered in perfect timing, but yet it was prepared like way before. And so,
dude, so 2 twin brothers in Arkansas, who would ever thought you guys would end up in Arkansas, right? You know, in that moment, right? It's like out of anywhere, it could have been California, Washington, Bend, back at home, Nevada, Reno, but you two are in an apartment on the campus of University of Arkansas, and you guys both get picked up with the Patriots on your draft year. Like, so incredibly cool, man. It's like out of a movie, man. And so, you know, I can relate to that phone call, the undrafted free agent status. You know, the Seahawks called me, and I'm with, you know, some teammates, and, you know, I'm sitting on a tree stump out in my friend's front yard.
Because I remember those little things.
Yeah, I remember exactly where I was, what kind of phone I had, who I called right after that, and like, it was just the coolest moment, man. And so for you guys to have that moment together with everything that had gone on, like the 2, 3, 4 years prior to that, it's pretty incredible, man. It's like you said, like nothing but God in that moment, right? But he prepared you with all those different obstacles along the way just to reach that one moment. So you guys both go to the Patriots together, twin brothers. Who wouldn't want to be on the Patriots? Going to Tom Brady. Are they just fresh off a Super Bowl win?
They had just beaten Atlanta, that crazy game.
Okay, right. So you're going to the Super Bowl, the world champion New England Patriots. You guys get there together. Talk about a little bit of your time in New England, kind of the culture there. Obviously playing with Tom Brady, Bill Belichick. Trying to think of the McCourty twins were there at that time. Gronk, Edelman. This is 2016? 2017, okay. Yeah, so talk about a little bit about like your first experience in NFL, undrafted free agent. You're coming off an injury. 2 brothers from Bend, Oregon on the same team. Like, what are the odds, right? Like, yes, talk about that.
Yeah, so at first, we were just so humbled, man. $10,000 signing bonus was like the world for us. you know.
And it wasn't long ago, right, where you were in debt
Yeah.
$10,000, right,
Yes.
at University of Reno, right?
Yeah.
So, like, again, God orchestrating this whole thing, right?
It's cool that you remember that, because that's exactly, we were like, dude, we're $10,000 in debt.
Yeah.
Let's just pay it off. We hate the feeling of interest.
Yeah.
And so we just got out of college. We're like, we have $10,000. You know, people assume you have money right away, but literally we're at zero.
Yeah.
And we just pay off our debt.
Yeah.
And we're like, we're debt free, man.
Yeah.
Our signing bonus covered it.
Yeah.
It was cool how the Lord did a little thing like that. Like the exact amount that we owed was paid. And, but yeah, so going to the Patriots, we're fired up, going to rookie mini camp, didn't know what to expect. Honestly, we felt kind of good going into it. We're like, we felt confident. We're like signed undrafted free agents. There's going to be guys there that aren't signed yet. Like we felt kind of, at least I did, I felt like confident. And then immediately, dude, immediately when we got there, we were so humbled. Just because the first thing Belichick does is he just does such a great job of leading an organization. And so he just like humbles everyone to say like, you're on the same level. We're going to treat you the same way. And that's what we got. Yeah. You know, from the top down, I truly felt it was that. Yeah. And so, you know.
Don't mind my daughter crawling around the
No, you're good. But yeah, so when we're there at rookie mini camp, it was like this overwhelming amount of information, you know, looking at each other. Literally, we teared up at night. That first night, we looked at each other. We're like, do they expect us to know all this stuff tomorrow morning? Yeah. And so we're just studying all night, trying to measure like how much sleep you get versus how much, you know, studying you do. And so we just grinded out, probably put more pressure on ourselves than was actually there. But then we get through that, then we go into OTAs. Yeah. We're in this, you know, rhythm, feeling good. And then I actually blew out my shoulder in the beginning of camp to where I blew out my AC. And so I was out for like a week. And it was grade 3, but I sat out like a week and a half, 2 weeks. Yeah. So where I was out for a little bit, and then Jacob kept playing. So he had made that initial roster, or that roster all year with that 53. Okay. And so for us, it was kind of, I was on practice squad after I did that, and then I came back, which for me, dude, was like, that's all I wanted. Yeah. I was like, just put me on practice squad, put me on whatever you want. So I was on the practice squad, and then even rewind a little bit, I love telling this story of just when I first got to that building. I remember OTAs was the first day of like seeing Tom and like all the players. Yeah. And being a rookie, you're like, I mean, these are the guys you watched, especially Tom. You're like, dude, you know, this is a guy I watched my entire life. And so I didn't really know Edelman, you know, Dola's there, Amendola, you know, Slater, just all these guys, great guys. Yeah. Hogan, Chris Hogan. Yeah. I mean, it was a great room. Yeah. And so I show up there and I don't know what to expect. I didn't know how these guys are going to work and stuff. And like, I just didn't know the NFL life. Yeah. I didn't know what guys do what. But being on the Patriots was so awesome because they literally did treat everyone the same. And so I go to OTAs and we're doing this. I remember it was the first workout, whatever, you know, after their Super Bowl win. In my mind, I was thinking there may be some, I don't know, some like, we just won. I'm going to, you know, lay back a little bit. And, but I still remember it because Tom was running these 20-yard sprints and we'd time them, you know, he'd like laser time them. Yep. Our strength coach, Moses. And so they were doing these sprints. We were just watching them. And Tom was like not the fastest guy in the world. Yeah. But like he was running these 20-yard sprints. And I remember he ran one and then he tried to beat it the second time. And this is right after the Super Bowl. And so he comes back, runs the second one, didn't beat his time. He was like, he said something, he was just pissed. Yeah. And I sat there and I was like, you're that mad. I mean, you just won the Super Bowl. And so it gave me a good perspective of like, that's how they do things here. This guy just wants to get better. Yeah. Like, they just won a Super Bowl, had a crazy good season. I think he threw like 2 interceptions all season. Yeah. And he's getting mad about a 20-yard sprint that no one's ever going to see. Yeah. And so that set the tone for me. All the wide receivers, they set the tone. Yeah. And just like me being a kid, you know, with my dad, you know, instilling that, a lot of those guys in that receiver room just set the tone for me, made me, or taught me how to work.
Well, even the cool thing about that room in particular, which is pretty unusual considering how pass heavy and critical not only the quarterback position is, but the receiving receiver position is, right? Like, you're talking about a room that has no first-round draft picks. These are all Edelman was drafted like 5th or 6th round. Slater's a special teamer. Amendola is a free agent, undrafted free agent who made his way, to New England through like St. Louis and the Cowboys. And who else did you? Chris Hogan was a lacrosse player. Like, so you have a room where like these dudes are just like you.
For sure.
Like, the blueprint is in front of you. Like, how do I make it as a successful Super Bowl MVP in Edelman? Like, the blueprint's here, bro. Like, how – you've been in the league now for a while, but how unique is that not just that locker room, but that particular wide receiver room to not have a marquee, quote-unquote marquee player in that room, and you have all these dudes who, like, were literally undrafted and are balling.
Yeah.
What's that like, man? What was, like, looking back, I mean, how did that shape, like, your career? Because you're around guys that, like I said, the blueprint for an undrafted free agent to thrive and succeed was the guys you're around,
Yeah, it kind of eradicated any sort of, like, I don't know, when you're a kid, you don't know how, or maybe you see some guys behave in the NFL a certain way, and so you assume other guys are that way, and you see some people with, like, entitlement, and, dude, I go into that room, there's no entitlement.
Yeah.
There was just guys working and getting better and fighting, and, Chris Hogan, one of them, like, me and my brother would always, joke about it because some guys don't like doing certain drills, it's annoying, or they don't want you to try too hard against them. Just like they call it brother-in-law. You want to like chill, but go hard. And but those guys set the tone for me of like Chris would get, I don't know, he'd get like excited and like pat me on the back if I would go hard and like challenge him. And if I didn't, he would get on me. He'd be like, give me a look. So I'd do something, not, because at first I'm like, I don't want to upset this guy. Like, I just want to go with the motion. And he showed me, like, I want you to give me your best. And same with Edelman, same with Dola, like, cool Dola. He's like the coolest guy I've known in the league. But all these guys, Slater, all these guys just, there was no entitlement, taking notes like it's their rookie year, And so they just set the tone for me in so many ways. But it put me in a place where it was like, no matter where I'm at, I want to be that guy. And so I hope that that's what I do now is even, we have a very similar, I believe, culture and like our, effort and finish is the calling card here with the Titans. It's like, man, you want to be that guy. But that's how I want to be seen is that dude, just like those guys in that group. It's like, man, I want to be the dude that the guy just doesn't quit. He just fights, he's not going to let up. So they set a good example for me.
That's awesome. 'Cause that's a perfect little transition into like kind of the next phase. So let's kind of wrap up New England. So how long were you guys in New England together for?
2 years. First year, went to the Super Bowl and lost. I was obviously on practice squad. Lost against the Eagles. Second year, I went on IR with back surgery. So I had back surgery, and that was my whole year was on back surgery. My brother played, and we won the Super Bowl that year. So we both got rings.
Was that Seattle?
No, that was Rams that we won.
Oh, the Rams.
Lost to the Eagles.
Gotcha.
So we just won that Super Bowl. I go into the offseason, get a call from Bill saying, hey, man, I love Bill and I love all those coaches, but he's like, you just keep getting hurt. And so it's not gonna work, but I wish you the best. And so I respected that a lot. But suddenly I was a free agent. And then I got the call to the Titans after I went to the rookie minicamp for the Giants, didn't get signed. Next week I got a call for the Titans. You come to the rookie minicamp unsigned.
And your brother then goes to Seattle?
My brother so when I didn't get signed and I was back in Oregon, which is where we trained. I was back there as a free agent, stayed there. Jacob went back to New England because he was still on the team. He was a little bit banged up, hammy or something, and then he got traded to Seattle. So he got traded, calls me crying, like, because you just don't know how to deal with it. Because at first you take it as an insult. You're like, they don't want me. You know? It feels like a pride check and all this stuff. But then it ended up being a great situation with Seattle and killed it. But at first, you're like, first time being traded, you just feel, especially coming from college, you're like, we said we're family. Like, is, this is the time I've invested in these guys. And I thought they loved me. And then you get traded away and you're like, what the heck?
It's the reality of the business, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk. So Jacob's now in Seattle with the Seahawks. You make way through a couple different camps. Now you're with the Titans. So let's go to 2020, man. Like, so 2019, you guys went to the AFC Championship that year, right?
Yeah.
Lost to the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. You played that year, right? A little bit on.
So I was hurt. That I just hurt my ankle, but I was playing like.
You were
6
active,
games.
active towards the end of the year. Going into 2020, the COVID year, right? That's where our paths cross.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that, man. This is how I met Cody Hollister, right? So I get called. The COVID thing was just a crazy situation. The protocols, and no one knew what to expect, and the Titans kind of went through the ringer with like all these people testing positive. Like, you guys were the black eye of the NFL, like early on, right? Breaking all the rules, breaking all the protocols, guys working out together outside of the premises, and there was this huge outbreak. Well, that benefited me, right? Because the snapper, Bo Brinkley, at the time tested positive, and he had to sit out for X number of days, and I was a local guy, so they just kind of brought me in. I got signed to the practice squad, which is new because they changed the rules. I was an 8-year vet, now I'm practice squad, whereas before you had to have less than 3 years of credited seasons to even have eligibility in practice squad. But so I get signed to practice squad, didn't even walk in the facility, no workout. Like, I literally just got signed like on the spot as like an emergency spot. And I was thrilled, man, because it was staying home, it's close to home, and just another opportunity. But you and I were in we were in the bubble locker room at the time. So the outdoor facility was where all the practice squad guys had their locker. Each locker was, 5 yards apart. We could only walk inside to go get food and bring it back out and eat. Couldn't go to the showers, really. There was no team meetings inside. So my time in Tennessee from week 5 or week 6 on, there was no brotherhood. There was no camaraderie. Yeah. There was no interaction, right? So you and I, just kind of naturally met because we're on practice squad and we were in the bubble together, and we traveled together with being on P squad and whatnot. And I just remember, man, you caught my eye, dude. Here's this dude, long hair, kind of quiet. Noticed you always reading your Bible in the morning at your locker, and I don't want to pry, and I don't want to get too nosy, but I took note of that. I'm like, oh, there's another brother in Christ right there, 2 doors down,
2 doors down.
And I had Chester Rogers next to me. He and I were in Indy together, so I had a familiar face. Goskowski and I, had crossed paths a few times, obviously Brett Kern and whatnot. But outside of practice and being in the bubble, just sitting at our lockers, I feel like we spent a lot of time in our locker just because if you weren't in meetings or working out, you couldn't go mingle in the normal locker room. So I just took notice of you. Man, that's Cody Hollister, man. He's a good dude, man. And then you were flying around on punt return and kickoff and bringing good looks, and you impressed me, man. And then we really started to kind of introduce each other. I think we were in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
We were in the suite, team suite before the game, and I remember you brought your guitar with you on the plane. I'm like, dude, this dude is cool, man. Bringing his guitar, and he's just laid back. And I've never seen anybody bring a guitar on a road trip. And this is my first time experience the luxury of P Squad.
Yeah.
In the sense of there's no anxiety, there's no stress. It's let's just go enjoy this weekend. Hope the boys win, and let's just chill, right? And I remember, man, you got your guitar, and then the next day, game day, we wake up, have breakfast kind of late. It's nice. You sleep in. You go to the stadium around 11 o'clock. Game's at 1. We just kind of chill in the suite before the game, and I kind of look over, and you're on your computer, right? Mm-hmm. This dude's on his computer, and I noticed that you were looking at houses, right? And my real estate, ears go up. I'm like, hey man, what are you looking for? Oh, I'm looking for a place to live and buying a house. And so that's what kind of broke the ice for you and I. And then through Bible studies and teen chapel and all kind of stuff. I mean, again, we never really got to hang out in group settings because of COVID. But you being in Nashville now, you got to spend a little bit of time off the field, which has been great. But that was my first, like, when I think of Cody Hollister, man, that was like the cool dude with the long hair, the guitar, always carrying his Bible, always working hard, always grinding. Like, that's just like, I'm like, those are the teammates that you just never forget, right? And then, the season went on, I got active, and, I knew watching you too, and Chester Rogers too, because, I spoke a lot with him, kind of the frustration, right, that like was just settling in late in the year when guys were getting injured, and for whatever reason, like, you're not getting called up, Chester's not getting called up, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't know much about Cody, but I played with Chester in Indy, and he's a great punt returner. He's a great fourth receiver, like, and you guys are balling in practice. I'm just seeing you guys make these plays, and like, why aren't they getting opportunities, right? And I know later on when you and I started speaking, more on more personal level, like, you were kind of sharing that frustration, like, man, like, I really thought I was going to be active this week, and I wasn't, and Chester kind of the same way, and he, you and him kind of just had that 2020 year was just kind of that disappointment every week in and week out, right? And we lost in the first round of the playoffs to the Ravens, and I was hopeful to come back that year, but I wasn't. But you returned. Chester also returned, and you guys, well, take that back. You returned later in 2021, and which is another really cool story. But it was really, really cool to see you and Chester playing a bigger role in 2021 after, like, the 2020 season was kind of a disappointment, right? Like, because you were healthy, you were feeling good, and just weren't getting those opportunities. So let's fast forward to this last season. Let's talk about your late season signing. The cool thing about you and your brother playing against each other. Your brother was in Seattle. Just to kind of catch people up on Jacob's story. He was in Seattle, right? Then he was a free agent, didn't re-sign with Seattle, went to Buffalo early in free agency, and then it didn't pan out there, and then ended up in Jacksonville, right? And when he signed with Jacksonville, I texted him like, hey, dude, like,
welcome to the desert.
Yeah, I said, brother, you're going to meet some great brothers in Christ there, because you got Logan Cook there, you got Pastor Mo there, you got some really good dudes. Like, I was just encouraging him that he talked to these guys. These are, Tyler Shatley, who's with our agency, another great guy. AJ Can, like, you're going to have some really good brothers, man. So it was cool to see him go there and whatnot. But let's talk about your season, man. Like, let's talk about just the no quit. Like, dude, you were grinding, bro. Like you always do. And lo and behold, the Titans come calling again, man. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I went in OTAs, felt great. Go into, fall camp, and I'm feeling great, playing well, feeling good, feeling strong, fast. And then I just caught a ball behind me and twisted up my ankle. And I thought I broke something at first, but I just tore a tendon in there, and just a high ankle sprain. But it's just, that's what you're doing is you're hurting a tendon. And so I was like, no way, man. And so I got hurt, and then they gave me I took an injury settlement. I could have stayed on IR, but then when it's not a full season injury, it's like once you got healthy, then you'd get cut. And then you couldn't re-sign with the same team. That's just how rules work.
All right.
And so I got hurt, and then I had the option to either stay on IR until I was healthy or take the injury settlement with potential to come back. So I took the settlement. It was like a four game checks, and 4 games, which I was grateful for. But then it's like puts you on this timeline of like, all right, that's how long I have, and then we'll see, because it was a lot of faith going into it, because I'd walked out of that building. You never know. You're like, will I be back in this building? Like, I have no idea. But I did walk out of that building. Feathers have always been my thing, and my brother got me this golden feather.
That's cool, man.
And it's just, there's a saying where a feather falls, an angel leads, and it's been a way that the Lord's always reminded me that He's with me, and just with crazy moments of dropping a feather in front of me. And so this was a moment I walked out of that building. I was like, did I make the right decision? Was this, what's going to happen? What's ahead of me? Will I be in a building? Will I be in this building? there's a feather right in front of me.
No way, man.
And so I literally started crying, man.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm saying I'm crying a lot in this podcast, but I picked.
Dude, that's what it's all about, getting raw and vulnerable, man.
I'm just crying
Peeling back the layers,
every
bro.
step.
Yeah.
No, but I pick up this feather and I go to my truck and I'm like, I took a video.
Yeah.
I was like, the Lord is with you. I was speaking to myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, go back to this moment and the Lord is with you. And so I go into the next months of just recovery. They pay for recovery. You're just, getting PT.
Yep.
But so many moments of like the enemy in your head. God's not with you.
Yeah.
You're done. Finally getting what you deserve.
Yeah.
This is because blank.
Yeah.
This is because you messed up. This is because, just the shame of like, you're getting what you had coming.
Yeah.
Like, was it you didn't do enough, or because you just so many different, lies. And I had to return to that moment of like truth. You got to hold on to those truth moments. Write them down, something. But like, when God calls you in a direction and puts you in a direction, you gotta know, because you'll have to turn back and be like, I know he, Nevada, Arizona, Arkansas.
Yeah.
It's like I was in those places questioning everything, but I had to go back to that moment of knowing, like, I know he called me here.
Yeah.
So same thing with this. It was like, God, I don't know even where I'm going, but I know that this is right. So I'm hurt. It feels wrong. Feels like it's out of control, but I know it's right.
Yeah.
And so fast forward 10 weeks, recovery went great. Finally get to rest an ankle. Usually you're pushing through it, and it takes a lot longer to recover. But first time in really my career, I could actually let something fully heal.
Yeah.
So I come out of that unvaccinated. So that was another piece of it, because it's tough to get a workout, with teams.
Oh, yeah.
When you're not at this time. Now it's not a thing.
We don't need to go down that rabbit hole right now, but yeah, the whole vaccination thing in particular to the NFL was such a hot topic. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those decisions that I had to make for my family and I because I was a street free agent too.
Yeah.
Leading into the summer, and like when teams would call, the only thing they would ask me was my vaccination status. Like, are you vaccinated? Can you send me your proof of your card? And that's all they cared about. They didn't care about like, hey, are you healthy? Mm-hmm. Are you in shape? Where you at? Like, that was the only thing they called about. And, those decisions, talk with Kyle, like, hey, dude, what do you think?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I don't want to do this, but I feel like I have to do that. And, I made the decision, down the road as a family. We prayed on it and everything. But, it's crazy that the world we were living in last year was just a crazy thing. So, but it stacked the odds against players who are unvaccinated on the street because of the fact that it's just not, if you're not that big name or if you're not that player that's making the big dollar that teams are invested on, like, it's almost like they don't want you. Yeah. Because you're like this liability, or you're this you're this threat to like ruining the locker room,
Yeah, just rules wise, because the NFL had rules in place where it's like, it just makes it harder on the team. Yeah. But for me, in the conviction of the Lord, I was like, again, truth moment. I'm like, I know I shouldn't. Yeah. Different people have different situations, which is how it should be. But like, I know I shouldn't, and I didn't know why. But now I look back, I'm like, I had many different reasons why I didn't do it. But then, I look back and I'm like, maybe I would have signed with someone else. Yeah. If I had. Yeah. But the Lord showed me like, no. Yeah. And so I held on to that, even though everything was like pointing to just do it, because, and so everyone's story is very different as to why and where is the Lord leading you. But for me, it was very clear. And so I didn't. And then Kyle, same call, he's like, just so you know, man, it's going to be harder. And I was like, dude, I just know. I just know that God's not calling me to do it. Yeah. And so I stuck to it. And then fast forward, no teams are having me. Some talked about it, but like, there's just so many rules. You'd have to go in early 5 days. They'd have to know 5 days earlier.
You're just an inconvenience. Yeah, is what it is.
Inconvenience. Yeah. And so, I was just working out at that point. Time was up on the settlement. Yeah. So I was just working out. Yeah. And staying ready. Yeah. And
don't quit, dog.
Yeah. And so then the Titans called me, which was all I was really content in that time. It was a really dark season of life, of like so many foundational faith tests. Yeah. Which was so good for me, because you come out of like the fire of that and it's all genuine. Yeah. But I came out of that and felt like a new man. And, the Titans had called me about signed me to the practice squad because some guys, one went somewhere else, and then a couple injuries. So next thing you know, I get a call from the Titans about signing me to the practice squad. And the craziest part of that is the Lord had just laid it on my heart, a day before, literally the day before. And one of my friends actually, I was talking to her, and I was like, I got a couple things that God has laid on my heart. I'm gonna write down, which I never do. I should, but I wrote these things down. One was, God, I pray that I get signed back to the Titans before the Jaguars game, and I pray that I play, because that's my brother, the team that my brother's on.
And you guys had never played against each other up to this point? Okay.
Never been on the same field in the NFL because I wasn't playing when he was playing.
Yeah.
And so, literally the next day, I get a call, total answer of prayer. I get a call about signing the practice squad. And to me, it was like, before that would have offended me, because I'm like, I feel like I should be on the 53.
Yeah.
Now I was like, thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
This is incredible and such a blessing, and it's perfect. And I just felt this momentum of like, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I go sign to the practice squad. I'm pumped up, fired up. And then literally a week later, I went from on the street to starting against the Patriots because I can't even remember. I think someone got hurt.
Yeah.
Something, COVID maybe. And next thing you know, Rob comes up to me. He's like, hey man, you're probably starting against the Patriots next week.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like full circle.
Yeah.
Going to Foxborough.
Out of all places, you're playing on the road in Foxborough.
My former team, like Foxborough, I had prayed about this.
Yeah.
Suddenly I'm my first start in the NFL. So dude, we lost the game, but like I had a blast.
No, it's a game you'll never forget.
Dude,
never forget.
Such a blast. I was flying around, a couple catches, but like I was just having fun.
Oh yeah.
I was absolutely having most fun I've had in a game, because I was just like, this is a dream. So I got to play a ton the next 3 games, but with the rules, you can stay on practice. So I was still on practice squad.
Yeah.
But with
they
the
just
rules,
elevate you every Saturday or whatever.
With the rules with COVID, they could elevate you and keep you there.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes it tough on guys, Yeah. So I got back to the practice squad, and transparency. Of course, I'm frustrated. I want to play, but I still gave it all I got all year, and just encouraged guys and gave them the best look. But that Jacksonville game was the third game.
Okay.
And so I'm sitting there, and I had played 2 games, and I'm like, just one more game.
Yeah.
And so I got to look at that page that I wrote in.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, dude, I'm playing against the Jaguars. I'm talking like, I prayed this and wrote this down, before I got called by the Titans. Like, everyone would say it's virtually impossible.
Yeah.
Especially with, wasn't getting vaccinated, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And the Lord does not deal with possibilities.
Yeah.
And so literally it was like all odds out the window. God said, I'm going to answer this.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, I'm on the field with my brother, and we exchanged jerseys, take picture, dude. It was just I have those moments in my life where I'm like, Lord, you really do it. Like, you really answer.
God had his hand on that story, that way that you and your brother, not only the whole thing is crazy, right? It's to most people it's crazy, but like, to believers who are, firm in their faith, like they know that God had his hand on you the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Knew exactly where you're going to be at that moment, how you're going to get there. And it's just like that's why I wanted to talk to you again and sit down and talk about your testimony, because first of all, your testimony is not over by any means, right? It's still growing. It's still on this crazy journey that you're on. But it's like, the Wyoming and Arkansas thing was crazy. Then the New England draft thing was crazy. And then, making it on the field to play against your brother when you weren't even on a team, like writing that down is even, it's a beautiful story. And dude, it gives me goosebumps, man. I'm so thrilled that we're sitting here talking. And, from afar, because I'm in LA playing with the Chargers at the time, and I get signed late too, right? And signed in training camp, and it's one of those things too where, at the time before that, going into free agency, I was so bummed about not going back to the Titans, because I was living here now as my comfort zone. Felt like I'd at least earned an opportunity to compete for the job and whatnot, and couldn't be so far from really the truth of the matter that God took me where I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And LA was so cool, man. I was closer to home. You know, one of the oldest guy in the locker room, man, disciple on that team, and like got to pour into the young guys. And it's like this football thing is so cool because of the fact that like when you start enjoying the game for what it is and start to like take away that identity, like football is only who I am,
Right.
and start really believing in the truth that like, no, God has put me here because he wants me to disciple this locker room and be a shining light on and off the field. And like, I get more of a thrill of doing that and having that opportunity than, you know, putting the jersey on Sunday and running out the tunnel. That's cool and all, but like when I look back on my time in LA last year, you know, things just keep getting better. And you think that like, hey, being with this team the entire time is the best thing for me. And God's like, no, I'm going to show you something even better. So to wrap it up, man, like you're on the Titans still, you're healthy, you're strong, you're going to OTAs. Old AJ Brown just got traded, you know, to the Eagles. I mean, was that tough news for you, man, with being in that room, having, you know, just a premier athlete in AJ Brown, right? A guy to watch and a guy to learn from, and really not an older guy by any means, but just someone that you know, you can sit back and watch. Like, man, like that guy's pretty dang talented. And you know, what do you think it's going to be like, you know, moving forward without AJ there? Obviously, he's got a great opportunity in Philadelphia. He just drafted a young guy from Arkansas, right, to kind of fill his shoes, I guess you can say. But maybe touch on the AJ thing a little bit, and then obviously, like for me, I'm like, man, what a cool opportunity that you have for the rookie coming in as a receiver, as a first-round pick, but he's from Arkansas, and like you're in that same room, and maybe like you're there to like, you know, pour into this guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. I feel like we get so used to guys coming in and out, but there are certain relationships, like AJ, for example, is a guy that I came in with.
Yeah.
Because he was a rookie.
Yeah.
Second round draft pick, and I was coming in undrafted, but this was my third technical year, and coming in unsigned.
Yeah.
As a free agent, you know, to this rookie mini camp. And so coming unsigned, you know, odds are very stacked against you.
Yeah.
But like me and AJ started there, you know, to where I saw this dude. I'm like, there's some guys where they're drafted really high and you're like, you know, really?
Yeah.
Then there's some guys where you're like,
Makes sense.
wow.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, or they should have gone a lot higher.
Yeah.
And so AJ was one of those guys.
Yeah.
I was in that rookie mini camp, and it was one of the few guys where I'm like, yeah, he should have gone first round.
Yeah.
And he's that first round.
So he wasn't a first round pick? He was late?
Second round.
Okay. I did not know that.
Yeah, so he, obviously a freak, you know, when it comes to just more like his mentality I loved.
Oh, yeah.
Because his, like, confidence of just knowing, you know, he's the best.
Yeah.
Or just, like, the freedom he plays with was something I got to look up to, you know, even as an older guy. Because I tend to, like, be so serious. And he's out there having fun. And so I'll miss that a lot in the locker room of, like, I remember I wasn't in the huddle, but I was playing this game against the Raiders. And I'm going to misquote it, but he was in the huddle, like, backed up to, like, the 7-yard line on our own 7 or something. And he, like, casually, like, some guys are, like, nervous in the game. I'm not nervous, but I am serious.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, what yard line were you on? Someone was like, 7. He's like, I'm about to score a 93-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
Went and scored a 93-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
I think he ran a post or something, caught a ball. But, like, that's just, he's just just so loose.
Yeah.
And really missed just the man that he is.
Yeah.
He has a daughter now.
Yeah.
So I've seen him go from a rookie to, like, a father.
Yeah.
Totally change his demeanor. And
yeah.
So I'm going to miss him in the building for sure. The trade, I guess I don't think about the business side until it happens with other guys. So, like, thinking about it, I'm like, that's just a lot of money for a team that I don't know their cap and everything. But if anything, hearing what he got for the Eagles, I'm like, dude, I'm so happy for you.
Yeah.
So if they couldn't give that to you here, like, man, just makes me so joyful for you. You know, you grew up in a trailer, and you know, just a situation where it's like some people would consider it, you know, the odds being truly stacked against you. And trust in the Lord and perseverance, and he is here today. But and then I'm always excited for new guys too to come in, because like AJ, this freakishly talented dude, amazing guy, and then now we get new guys coming in.
Yeah, a fellow Razorback, man.
Yeah. Go Hogs. But I'm always excited for new guys, especially I'm 28 now, so like new guys coming in, it's truly younger guys.
You're the old guy, man. Now.
Yeah.
And you're only 28, man. That's not old, but I'm 30. I'll be 37 this year, so like I'm truly the old guy. But it is weird to think like, 28, like I really am the old guy in a room.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty cool, man. Like I'm excited for you this year, man. You're gonna be great no matter where you're at. And again, you truly are one of those teammates and brothers that I've been so blessed to have in my life, because like just the way you carry yourself, your bold faith, it's really hard to come by, especially in this business. I know early for me, like I always hid behind my faith and never wanted to be outspoken about it, never wanted to talk about it in the locker room, never wanted to, my Bible was with me all the time, but it was only in my room in the hotel, and never really broke it out. And, in my mature years in the league, like dude, I love being outspoken, and you're the same way, very bold in your faith and a disciple and a shining light in that locker room. I like to talk about a little bit, and it's kind of goes with no quit, but the stay ready, right, mentality for me was, at first it was like, I just need to be prepared for when that call comes. And it was always related to football. Mm-hmm. But as like, my journey has gone and because the stay ready like hashtag started back in 2017 when I became that street free agent again. And it's evolved into so much more, and it's more about like just really staying ready for the divine appointments that God has set up for you. Yeah. Whether it's a door being closed or a door being opened, staying ready to serve somebody, help somebody, mentor somebody, or just be a disciple in that locker room. So, when I think of no quit, I kind of think about maybe the same kind of thing. And maybe to you, can you just touch on like, end it with this, like what does stay ready mean to you? What does no quit mean to you, just as a believer, just as you've matured in your faith? Mm-hmm. Like maybe no quit meant one thing early on, but now it's kind of evolved into something else. Maybe just end with that.
I love that, man. I don't know if there's a lot of people that are more excited. Like I didn't even express it. I think I shot you a DM or something when I saw it, but when you got signed in LA, dude, I was like, stay ready, man.
Yeah, I know, man.
Because I'm like that, because I've talked with you when no one believed, so here's the end of the road.
Yeah.
And you're just grinding and you're working, and I'm like, dude, that's why we're so similar.
Yeah.
But I love Stay Ready and No Quit because I feel like they're just so similar, and then also at different like stages in maybe someone's journey or like one story. Because like Stay Ready maybe before something comes, and then No Quit is like, okay, now you're in it.
Yeah.
And now you got to persevere. Yeah. But like the Stay Ready part of, let's say something hasn't come yet.
Yeah.
Blind faith, this faith where it's like expectant, which not a lot of people have, is, when you pray for something, for example, it may not come.
Yeah.
But staying ready is like, it will come.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't come, well, then I'm going to trust the Lord with something else. Yeah. But like for you, dude, you're training, and I've seen you train. I literally have seen videos of you, and I'm like, that is a guy that is ready.
Yeah.
And so you're training when everyone doesn't think there's a chance, when all this, and you're like, no, you're truly ready.
Yeah.
And you believe it's coming.
No, that means a lot, bro, because for me, like I love the process of like training. We've talked about this a little bit. Like the off season is like special. It's like it's a time to get away from football, but you never really quite get away because you love the process. You love the training. You love like doing something new and pushing yourself to a different level. And you're right, man. Because the stage that I'm in right now, like I wish I was in OTAs. I wish I was on a team. I wish I was signed. I wish I signed a deal back in March. But, looking back on the past 4 or 5 years, this is nothing new to me. Mm-hmm. And it's always worked out in a way that I never thought would. And God's revealed something different. But yeah, stay ready. It's like, maybe I am always going to be that emergency snapper if someone unfortunately gets hurt, that I fill those shoes and can perform because I am ready, right? Mm-hmm. So I really appreciate you saying that, man, because that means a lot to me. And So I don't mean to cut you off, but yeah, just finish up like the no quit, like, and yeah, just finish it off, man.
Yeah, so just that expectance of stay ready, of like, it is coming. Me training back at home in Oregon was that, of expectant faith, working as if it's coming. Then the no quit for me is truly like, me and my brother always say it, we're like, to follow Jesus, you got to have a high pain threshold and a pain tolerance. And so for us, it's like, you're gonna, following the Lord, you know, looking at stay ready, you know, looking at no quit. It's like, when you're in these situations, it's like, you got an option to turn back. You got an option to quit. You got an option to believe what everyone said and to stop preparing. I literally had a coach tell me in the league, he's like, let's be realistic. I hate the word realistic.
Yeah.
I hate that word because I'm like, what? It's subjective.
Yeah.
You know, what's realistic to you in a high school coach that maybe didn't make it is different from the coach that told you that you can make it.
Yeah.
So what is realistic? So for me, man, no quit is truly just having a high pain tolerance of life, of saying, Jesus, I'm going to follow you. I'm going to do it with all I got, and be ready to hold on and stay underwater with my lifeline and with my vine.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be the branch, but I got to be connected or else I have no life. So if I'm not connected to the vine, which is Jesus, like, then I don't have the strength to carry on. But if I am, I can literally just hold on. You know, you're in a desert and all you have is that vine. It's like, man, I'm just holding on, not quitting. It's like, so many people feel uncomfortability, they feel pain, a door is open, but to walk through it takes a lot of pressure and pain and uncomfortability. And they're like, nah, I'm going to go back.
Yeah.
Because that hurts or that's hard. But when you're willing to say, like, I'm going to step into this, you know, with the preparation of being ready and then stepping into it with, like, I know what I'm getting myself into, but it's not until you're in the situations where it does something in you and the Lord has to sustain you, because we always want the strength before we need it.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord, give me the strength right now. And then the Lord's like, I'll give you the strength when you need it.
Yeah.
Lord, make me a good father. It's like, I'll make you a good father when you are a father.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know how you do what you do. Having, you know, a kid, a wife, I'm sitting here, a single guy, all the time in the world. I'm like, dude, I don't have the energy, I don't have the time. But then he'll provide that to me when I am. And so the preparation for me is the stay ready part, and then the no quit is the sustain.
Yeah. I love it, man. Well, thank you so much for coming by again. Wanted you on here so bad, man. And I hope I get to sit with maybe you and your brother again this summer before the season starts. But always rooting for you, bro. I mean, I love you, man. Thank you so much for taking your time out, just getting vulnerable, getting raw, sharing your beautiful testimony with others. And I truly believe, man, like your no quit mentality, your story that you and your brother have, really going to resonate with other people that are listening to this. And even if it's just for somebody that don't know who the Hollister brothers are, man, like this is going to be some encouragement for them. So I really appreciate you doing that, and continue to keep doing God's work, brother, man. I love you, dude.
I love you too, dog. Appreciate you.
Thank you, bro. Thanks, man. Thank you for tuning in to Stay Ready, the podcast. If you liked today's episode, please comment below, like, and subscribe to our channel. I appreciate you all. We'll see you next time, and stay ready.